Yay Networks.
Yo, what's up, y'all? This is your boy, Cornelius. Welcome to another episode of This Is Life with Heather and Cornelius. Today, I have an amazing guest, y'all. You have no idea what you are about to witness. Yo, we're talking about mental health today. We're talking about, is anybody listening? And we're having this awesome conversation. And today, my special guest is none other than Tino Cochino. I don't know if you've heard of his name. If you haven't, you're about to hear it now because you need to know who he is. Tino Cochino is the man. I'm super excited to have him. We're going to jump right into this episode. Y'all ready? Even if you ain't, let's go. It's super excited just to be able to have a conversation with you. And it really seems like, mental health is something that is really, really huge with you, just the foundation of where you are right now. So, kind of bring me up to speed to like really what brought you to this point right now where mental health is like a central theme for you.
I feel like it's one of those things where we're at a time now more than ever where you hear so many people talking about it, which is a beautiful thing, the normalization of it. But unless you're going through something or you're at a point like that in your life where you even think about it, hearing people talk about it doesn't mean anything to you. I feel like it never did to me. And I clearly remember I was in the shower. So quick history just on our show. We have a nationally syndicated radio show. We're in like 70 plus cities, huge audience, like millions of people listen throughout the week. It's a big audience. And I remember being in the shower one day and I could still see it. I'm like leaning on the wall and I just had a weird feeling. I was like, man, like if I died tomorrow, like it wasn't like suicidal thoughts, but it was just like, if I died tomorrow, would anyone care? Like, sure, I've got all these people that listen and that's cool, but does anyone really care? Because I'm not the closest with my family. My circle of friends is so small. And even then we don't talk a ton. I was just kind of questioning my existence. And in that moment, I was like, well, this isn't normal thinking. I don't know if everybody feels like this, but for me, this is not normal. I should probably talk to somebody. And so I started looking around and I heard that finding a therapist could be really tough. I was recommended somebody, thank God. And we hit it off. And in the very first, session, I had like a breakthrough and I felt a sense of relief when I left. And I was like, all right, this is going to be something impactful. This is going to be something to help me like I've never experienced before. And that was kind of the start of it all.
What was the breakthrough, if you don't mind me asking?
So I was raised by my grandmother. I was born premature at 6 months, and my mom was, an alcoholic. My dad was in and out of jail, so they weren't there. So by the time I came out, my mom and dad, they just weren't together. He was kind of doing his thing. She was on her path, and my mom had asked my grandmother if she would be willing to raise me. So she did a phenomenal job, and she's the reason I even got into radio. It was a young age. I was 13. I was walking out of school, and she would pick me up at the same place every single day. The one day I walk out, she's not there, but there's a radio station in her space. And it's like, they've got the tent and they got their setup. And I'm like, what is this? It was the first hip hop radio station in town. And I was just like, all they play is hip hop. Like this is a thing. And so I'm standing at the table because I don't know where she's at. I was like, I'll find her eventually. 30, 45 minutes goes by and she's parked next to this tent the whole time. She was right there, but I never noticed her because I was so just, like enamored with what was going on. And she took note of that. And so anyway, once I see her, I get in the car, I think nothing of it. And she turns that station on and we start listening to them. She never changed the dial. And every time we'd hear that they were going to be somewhere doing like a live event, without telling me, she'd just say, hey, hop in the car, let's go run some errands. And she would take me to the event. And then when we'd get there, she'd say, hey, get out and, go talk to him. And I was so shy, man. I would get out the car and just stand there. I was that little weirdo that would just just look and do nothing. And
Who's a weird kid?
Exactly. I was, man. And this went on for months. And finally, one of the guys from the station was like, bro, you're always here. If you're going to be here, we're going to put you to work. And so they started teaching me how to, blow up balloons and fold up t-shirts. So we kept doing it. And I ended up doing that for like 3 years. And then I turned 16. I got hired full time. And I've been in radio ever since. And so anyway, sorry, I'm such a long story. To sum it up, she raised me. I moved from my hometown to different cities and states all over trying to chase the dream. And she passed away before I really achieved any type of success. And I just had this weird feeling like the one person that would actually care about seeing me succeed wasn't able to see it. And so when we were in that therapy session, we were able to do this like visualization breathing class thing. And I was able to literally see her, speak to her, and tell her, hey, I'm good. And almost feel the sense of relief. Like, I know, like from her telling me, like, I know. I don't know how to describe it, but it was just a feeling. And I left and I felt so free. And it was just a different feeling. And almost like this acceptance or this like confidence that I never had before. And I was like, man, if I can feel that off just this, I can only imagine what I can tap into if I just keep going and actually working on myself.
Wow, bro.
Yeah.
I'm kind of going back in the story, but so did you ever reconcile the things with between your mom and your dad?
Man, my over the past, it's crazy because I started this mental health podcast based on the feelings I had from that day in the shower. The podcast is called Is Anyone Listening? Because again, we have this huge audience, but even with that, I was like, is anyone listening? Does anyone care? And so I started the podcast, and it was initially just to recap therapy sessions. And as it's grown, because she wanted me to journal. My therapist was like, journal everything. I was like, I'm more of a creative. What if I vocalize it? And she's like, all right, that's cool. Just whatever you can do. And so I started doing that, and I promoted it on the radio show, and people started kind of catching on to it. And my mom and I would talk maybe, I don't know, 4 to 5 times a year. My dad a little less than that. And it's been like that for the past few years. Once the podcast started, my mom started listening to it, and she kind of started to text a little bit more. And she was like, hey, I'm kind of using this as my therapy. I feel like I'm connecting with you in a way I haven't been able to. And one of the episodes I dedicated to her, and I was basically like, listen, I know that because she's hard to talk to in person. She gets very emotional. She shuts down. So I dedicated an episode to her, and I basically told her, listen, there's no resentment with me and you. Everything happened the way it happened. I'm at a point where I'm good now, and I'm not holding anything against you. You were also young and in your own world and trying to figure it out. So it is what it is. We are where we are, and I'm good. Just know that I have no hard feelings. And man, she texts me and she's crying, and she's like, I needed to hear that. I've been so worried and afraid for all these years that you hated me or didn't care about me. And now to hear you say that we're good, I want to work on our relationship. And now we talk so much more than we have. I had a DJ gig in Dallas, and she flew out for that to hang out with me, and she met my girl, and we just, it's been on the up ever since. My dad, that's another story for another day. We're working on it, but my mom is definitely more present now, and she's been able, like I said, to use the podcast to, try and better herself as well. So it's been really cool, kind of like a 360 thing.
Yeah. Does it bother you though that you and your father's relationship hasn't built up to the place where you and your mom's relationship is right now?
If I just quickly think about it, yes, but I know that a big part of it is me too, because, we always think, I wish this person would call me more, do that more. Why don't they do this? But what am I doing to better it? Do I call more? Do I reach out more? Am I visiting? So I'm at a point where I can realize that I'm not taking the responsibility I need to take, and that's just on me to work on. So I'm acknowledging it, but now I need to take the action steps to, take action.
Yeah. That's dope, bro. So where have you landed at now? Like, do you feel like you have people who are listening to you? Do you feel like people care? And well, answer that question first, and I have another one for you.
It's crazy because I legit feel like I know my purpose in life now. And it's all
what is it?
It's all to hear people out, to help people, and just to let people know that they're not alone. I think so many people just feel like nothing, like they'll reach their lowest point and be like, no one knows what I'm going through, but everybody knows what everybody's going through, but nobody vocalizes it. Nobody, in relationships, people, so many things could be resolved by simple transparency and communication, but people for some reason are so worried about the outcome of it that it leads them down some opposite road that just actually in turn going to make things worse. And so I feel like I'm helping people work on themselves. I'm helping people mend relationships. I don't know. I just really feel like I'm at a place where it makes me happy to know what I'm doing. There is actually people listening. There's people connecting. Bro, I was at Disneyland of all places. I'm not going to lie. I felt pretty popular at the moment. I was at Disneyland with my girl. I took her for Valentine's Day. They did like a nighttime Disney After Dark thing. And we're just walking around minding our business, and this girl comes up to me. She's like, "Are you Tino?" I'm like, "What?" "Yeah." And she's like, "Man, I love your podcast. Like, it's helped me through so much. I was in the Army, and you're supposed to just be this strong individual when nothing gets to you, and you're almost emotionless in a sense. But that's not me. Like, I have emotions, and I'm able to connect with you on the podcast." And I'm like, wow, like, I'm from this small town in Texas. I'm from Lubbock, Texas. And now years later, here I am at Disneyland being recognized for a podcast that's helping people. It's not on no weird superficial stuff. It's genuinely helping people with their life. Like, that's meant to be. Like, it was the best feeling. And it just, I ironically now, yes, know that people are listening.
That's dope, bro. This show is sponsored today by BetterHelp. Now, you've heard me and Tino. We have this amazing conversation just about, our own mental health. And it is so important that you have somebody you can talk to. I mean, you just heard Tino. He's talking about the importance of being able to talk to the therapist and how the therapist really helped him, whether it's with journaling or him vocalizing the issues, whatever it may be. Like, this is a pretty important thing that we all want to have. And getting to know yourself can be a lifelong process. Understanding what's going on in your life and how you can fix those things, whether it's childhood trauma, whether, you got sleeping issues, whether you got some stuff going on in your marriage, like no matter what it is, like all that stuff they're just symptoms. And you really have to get to the root of the problem. So right now, if you're thinking of giving therapy a try, I'm telling you, go ahead and log into BetterHelp. Really lean into it. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Listen, I've used BetterHelp. I have so many of my friends, so many of my homies, so many of my family who has also used BetterHelp. They have provided them with amazing, amazing therapists. And here's the thing. If they didn't like the therapist, they could switch the person at any time, and they were completely fine with it. But discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/Lindsay's today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Lindsay's, LINDSEYS. Do it right now. BetterHelp, HELP.com/Lindsay's, LINDSEYS. So let me ask you this question. Do you feel like, what do you feel like switched? Because before, as you mentioned earlier, it was like, you had millions of people who were already listening to you. And they were already, I'm quite sure they were probably already connecting with you. But now it's kind of like you went through your own transformative process. And like, so what clicked for you to be like, okay, now I know what my purpose is, and I know that people are connecting to me and they are actually hearing me?
I feel like for the longest, I was so focused on just specifically work, like the mission, like what's next? I got to do this. I got to get to this level. I need to do this. And there was never any actual working on me. And I feel like you always hear, before you help anybody else, you got to know how to help yourself. When you get on a plane and they give you the whole instructions, what do they tell you to do? Put the mask on you before you put it on anybody else. I feel like that's the same thing like in life, but none of us do it. We're always worried about other people or what can we do, which is cool. You want to help everybody else, but you have to at some point focus on you and work on becoming the best version of yourself so you can in turn bring that out of other people. And I don't think I ever did that, until I started going to therapy and finally took some time to work on me. It's made me just more, I guess, aware and present.
Wow. How long has this therapeutic process been? Has it been like a year, 2 years?
Almost 2 years.
Working on you. That's dope,
almost 2 years.
That's dope. That's really dope. And
I mean, you too. I mean, you got, as I'm going over notes and reading over your story, I mean, you've had, I was telling you even off the air, man, so many like ups and downs, and you've turned it into this amazing, like positive thing for you. Like, how did you do it? Like when you're at such a low point, how do you find a way to bring that up?
How do I do it? I don't know. I to be honest with you, Tino, I'm still doing it. Like every day is a huge journey for me, bro.
Well, it never stops, right?
It never stops. And that was one of the things, that was the biggest misconception that I had. for the longest, I thought, okay, I'm going to arrive at a place where I'm going to be good. And then when I finally had to accept the fact that the journey was ongoing, I was like, oh, okay. It kind of put me more at ease and I wasn't as anxious about the process. Um, and one of the biggest situations, one of the biggest things that happened to me was last August. I got into a big fight with my now I know to be my stepdad. And my mom, who heard the argument, she heard the fight. She came to me a couple hours later, and I'm upset, I'm angry, and my mom sits down with me outside, and she says, "I got to tell you something." She says it like, "This is I know the missing piece." I'm like, "The missing piece? Like, what are you talking about?" And she basically tells me that this man who basically I've thought was my father for 36 years is not my dad. And I'm like,
Wow.
"What?" And she's like, "Yeah, he's not your dad." And she showed me like this other man's picture on Facebook. She's like, "This is your dad. And you have an older brother and you have an older sister." You said, "And you may have other siblings. I'm not sure." And man, it took me down a dark hole. I was numb. I
I
was
bet.
numb for a while. Oh, I was numb, bro. I was kind of numb. I was already feeling low. And then I just felt like that I didn't feel like I could go any lower. I just
I
went
feel like because
numb.
now it's almost like the life that you've known isn't even
It's not real.
reality.
Yeah, it's not reality at
Yeah,
all. It's not reality.
that's crazy. So how do you go to therapy for something like that to get out of it, or how do you get over such a like traumatic experience?
Yeah, so that was this therapeutic place in North Carolina. So I went and I checked myself in. So I flew from LA. The day after she told me, I flew from LA and I flew over to North Carolina and I checked myself into this place and I stayed there for like 5 days. And I just needed to go somewhere just to kind of breathe a little bit. And then when I came back, I would continue to have these therapy sessions. Um, but if I can be honest with you, Tino, the therapy sessions, while they were good because they helped me to really reconcile and journal out and write out some of my problems and some of my stuff, I felt like the real change started happening when I joined Alcoholics Anonymous. And I joined AA in last August.
Oh
When I
wow,
joined
okay.
AA, it was like I started getting around people who were like these public successes, who were great at what they did. I mean, you had some of the guys who, maybe not have been on that same lens, but like my groups, it was like they're public success. They've done all these great things, but then they recognize their humanity due to their alcoholism and due to their struggle. And I just started listening to these guys' stories and I started going through the 12 steps. And then I started really leaning into just how they embrace their sense of humanity and leaning into how they gain freedom. And bro, that like legit changed my life. And to this point now, like that, my process of transformation has been changed because of that. To this point now, like I want to live a life of authenticity. Like just like you, I feel like my purpose now is to be able to help people, especially in the aim of soul care. Like that's my life's work now. I pastored for 10 years, but I was super depressed when I did it. I was super suicidal while I was doing it. And now, I am in the field of soul care. I coach, high level leaders and helping them to find their proper balance. And I host these retreats, bro, where I can take them out of their domain and put them in, Wyoming, or put them in, a Joshua Tree, California, or throw them into, the Poconos, whatever it is, just throw them into a place that has them to escape from
Right.
their reality and just put them all in one place for a week and say, okay, you guys can do whatever you want to do. All I want to do is we want to have dinner every night and we're just going to talk if you want to. If you don't, if you want to go to sleep, go do that. But it's life changing, bro. I love it.
I bet. I mean, so do you feel, I mean, obviously in a weird way, it's like you had to have that horrible life incident happen in order to figure out the purpose in a sense, right?
Absolutely. Because up until that point, I was unsure of what I wanted to do. Because I was like, well, I pastored, I did this, I've done these other things. I have businesses and stuff like that. But honestly, Tino, I had kind of gotten bored with life. And that's when suicide became it became more of a reality, and I feel like more of an option for me
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, I kind of felt bored. And it's bad because, I have a beautiful wife. I have 3 amazing children. Um, but even like that wasn't enough for me at the time because I felt so low and I felt so numb. It wasn't enough for me to just keep living. So I mean, going through everything was kind of like it really jump started this transformative journey in me where I felt like I had climbed my first mountain of success, and now I'm like, okay, now I'm on the descent, I'm on the decline, and it's the happiest that I've ever been. Because I'm not trying, I don't care about being popular. I don't care about I don't care about being known. I don't care about being liked. Like I don't care about any of that crap anymore that I cared about before. Like now all I care about is living. I care about being real. I care about being authentic. I care about loving on people who don't look like me. Like that's what my desire is right now. That's where my purpose lies, bro.
Well, see, and I love that. And I feel like it almost ties into what I was saying. Like the reason I love doing the podcast is because I know that it's connecting with people that feel like they are alone or like don't have things,
Yep.
that people don't have any similarities to the lows. I mean, it's the same thing for what you said. You were feeling the way you felt until you met this group of, established individuals that you then
Right.
realize they're also at lows and they're going through something. And you're able to learn from that and apply it to your own life and then move forward. Like that's my goal with the podcast is being able to do something similar, let people know like, look, you might be having a bad day or a bad week, but it's not a bad life, and we just got to figure out how to get to that point full time, you know what I mean, like in your mind.
Yeah. And I get guys who reach out to me all the time, who are just, I mean, when you look at, I mean, just like with you, bro, like we were talking about earlier, how you have this public persona and everybody hears your voice, everybody's seeing you, everybody, I mean, you have millions of people who are listening, tuning in, they're watching you, they're hanging on to your words, but you still feel alone. And we're in a great technological age where we're the most connected we've ever been, but we're the most lonely that we've ever been. Like we know, like I'm ashamed to say that I know more stuff about the Kardashians than I do about. I don't even know my neighbor's name. Like
Bro,
that's
same
pretty
here.
bad.
I've been in my neighborhood almost 3 years, bro. I can't tell you nothing. I know that the family over here has a little baby and the people over here have a little dog, and that's what I know. I don't know their names. I don't know anything. It's
That's
weird. You're
bad,
right.
bro. It's so weird, it's like it's like every day you hear about another celebrity who gets a divorce, and I really just had to start sitting back and I'm like, why do I give a crap? Like why does that matter to me? But I don't even know like my neighbor's name or what my neighbor is going through. If my neighbor needs milk, or if my neighbor is going hungry because they don't have food, or if they don't have lights, they look happy, but is the happiness real, or is their marriage struggling? And I don't know. And so it's like we're the most connected we've ever been through technology and socially, but it's the loneliest that we've ever been. And I get guys who reach out to me all the time who their number one thing is, bro, there's like, I feel lonely. Like nobody understands. So hats off to you for even starting an international dialogue about, I mean, really answering the question, like, is anybody listening? So I feel like that is the one question that most
Bro,
people are asking. I mean, hell, I asked the question for years.
I was reading these on the air before we started today. So I'll talk about the podcast on the air, but it's a very biased opinion for a lot of people, probably because they're like, well, it's your podcast, of course you want people to listen. So what I've started doing is reading listener testimonials on the air so people can know, like, look, these are their words, this isn't me, this is what's coming in. I'm
Right.
gonna share a couple with you if you don't mind.
Sure, 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 please.
So like this one says, hey man, just want to say I'm loving yours anyone listening podcast. It's honestly my own personal form of therapy. Listening to the things you talk about makes me see how I can relate to it in my own life. And therapy is definitely something that I want to look into. And I'm glad you're breaking the stigma for males and therapy. Keep it up. The next one
Wow.
says, thank you so much for everything you do. This is exactly what I needed today. I'm sorry to hear that you're having a bad day, but like you said, it's just a bad day. It's not a bad life. And it also helps to know that I'm not the only one going through stuff. Thank you so much for putting yourself out there, not only for me to hear, but just to see that I'm not alone. I'm actually finally going to give therapy a try. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Like these are people I've never met before, but they're able to hear this and
Wow.
connect to it. And I mean, I've had wives hit me up and tell me it's helped their relationship because their husband was so shut off and emotional from like childhood traumas and triggers, and that they've been able to help their marriage, and their husbands are becoming better fathers now and more involved in the kid's life. And it's crazy, man. I really like, when I first got into radio, I just wanted to be the guy playing new music. That was my purpose. And that's only going to go so far. And then I wanted to be the guy that was in all the clubs and being seen. And that's only going to go so far. And finally, I'm at a point where I know what I'm doing can only grow in a positive way, and not just be beneficial for me, but pretty much for everybody involved. So I'm just so excited about it. That's why even like being here to talk to you about it and to be able to talk to your audience, it's a blessing, man. I appreciate it for real. Dude,
you out here changing people's lives, bro.
You too.
You out here changing people's lives. You got women running up to you at what is it? What'd you say? Disneyland?
Yep.
On Valentine's Day while you're with your girl, bro. I mean, how the boldness?
That was yeah, I know. That was some brownie points too. My girl's like, "Oh, you got other girls looking, and you helping them with their life."
Yo.
What?
Yo, I wanted to ask you, how did that go down? I can only imagine, like you there with your girls, Valentine's Day. Some girl because you was like, "Are you Tino?" And it's like, and then like in your head, you start going through like, "Do I know you? Do I ever seen you?" Did I like, But yeah, man, that's dope.
Bro,
my girls come to Disneyland.
My girl's cool, man. She's such a free spirit. She's actually the least jealous person. Sometimes it scares me. I'm like, why are you so non-jealous? Like, I almost want a little jealousy. Like, I need to know you care. You know?
Oh man, that's dope, bro. This episode is sponsored today by Chime Financial. Yo, do you even know what your financial goals right now? Do they feel like they're out of reach? Because they don't really have to be. With Chime's secured credit builder Visa credit card, you can start building credit with your own money through on-time payments and small everyday purchases like groceries, streaming, and gas. And everybody knows we're going to buy those things regardless. Based on a study conducted by Experian, credit builder members observed an average 30-point FICO score, 8 increase after 8 months. Chime reports your payments to the major credit bureaus to help you build credit over time, all with no annual fees, large security deposits, or credit checks to apply. So, hey, you may be getting ready to buy the house, you want to get the car, you want to, you need to refinance, whatever it may be, and you want to get that credit score, get it where it needs to be. I'm telling you, Chime is where it is. So start making your financial dreams a reality with Chime. Signing up only takes 2 minutes and doesn't affect your credit score. You get started at chime.com/LWTL. That's chime.com/LWTL. The Chime Credit Builder Visa Credit Card is issued by Stride Bank N.A. pursuant to a license from Visa USA Chime checking account and $200 qualifying direct deposit required to apply for the secured Chime Credit Builder Visa Credit Card. Based on a study conducted by Experian, Credit Builder members observed an average 30-point FICO score, 8 increase after 8 months, with regular on-time payments. Results may vary. See chime.com for details. Out-of-network ATM withdrawal fees may apply except at MoneyPass ATMs in a 7-Eleven or any Allpoint or Visa Plus Alliance ATM. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I'm 36.
36, bro. Dope. I am too. So that's dope.
Oh,
so
perfect.
We kind of share that thing, man. That's amazing. I love your story. I love where you come from. I love like what you're doing. So like you mentioned the whole purpose piece, but like, so where do you feel like you're headed from here? Or do you feel like you're in the lane where you're going right now and just kind of sticking to it? Or do you feel like, man, like what you're learning about yourself and what you're learning about and how you're helping other people, do you feel like it's creating this new avenue that you want to kind of take?
I mean, yeah, like I'm definitely like one of my main things right now. Like the focus is always growing the radio show. I mean, the radio show is the bread and butter. It's the everything. I've got an awesome team. I love what we're doing, and that's definitely like my main focus. But outside of that, it's obviously growing the podcast, and then I'm hoping by the end of the year I want to take it on the road and do live versions, kind of like in our biggest cities, the biggest like streaming cities. Take a live version, bring different artists or athletes or influencers or whoever it may be, and invite listeners out and really make a big event out of it and have people not only be able to come out and listen to a positive conversation like this face to face, but then also be able to ask their questions. There used to be this show on MTV way back in the day with Dr. Drew and Adam Carolla. It was called Love Line. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
and I loved it because, I mean, I was a kid and they mainly talked about sex.
I was going to say, why were you watching Love Line? Okay, but go ahead.
I know. They mainly talked about sex, but it was also sometimes they would focus on mental health questions and stuff. And I don't remember a ton of it, but I remember I love the transparency of it. I was like, man, how could a stranger get up and say they're having an issue or something like that and talk to them? And like, that always stuck out to me. And so I feel like our live version of the podcast would be something similar to where people that are having situations can come and feels it like they're in a safe space to ask or just share how they're feeling. And hopefully we can help them, you know, just maybe form a different perspective or leave with a different energy than they came in with. So that's definitely a big focus of mine, just kind of that I'm looking into, and I want to get knocked out by the end of the year for sure. I just want to grow it, man. I just want to keep growing the conversation.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I think that is so needed, especially, you know, you're taking it straight to them instead of, you know, having them to just come to you. I think that's absolutely amazing, bro. Well, I'm intrigued. I'm inspired by it.
I love that, man. That means a ton. And the cool thing is, like, it's one of those things that the conversation is open to anybody. I was literally interviewing Shaquille O'Neal, of all people, 2 days ago, and he wanted to talk about this weight loss and stuff that he had going on, and cool, it's all good. We did all that. And then at the end of the interview, I'm like, look, before we dip, I just want to let you know, I've been going to therapy. One of the things my therapist asked me was, what could I do to become a better version of myself? And I never looked at it like that. So I shared my reasoning with him, and then I closed it out. I was like, let the people know and be transparent with me. What's one thing you could do to become a better version of Shaquille O'Neal? And he just sat there for a second, and he's like, I'll be honest, I could listen better. I don't really listen to a lot of people. And he opened up and shared his reasoning. And it's just so cool that one of the most legendary athletes of all time is down to have a conversation like that. And so I think it shows to anybody, like, that everybody is going through something and everybody wants to better themselves, but it's about acknowledgement and it's about owning what you can do. Like, we're not always in the right. So we need to, again, look into ourselves, figure out what can we do to become the best version of ourselves, and then take the action.
Yeah, man, I love that, bro. I absolutely love that. Did you ever answer the question for your therapist?
Yeah, I tell everyone too. I was talking to Jack Harlow a while back, and I asked him the question, but I didn't give my reasoning, and he kind of called me out. He's like, "Oh, you want me to tell you, but you're not going to tell me yours, huh? Or you're going to edit it out." I was like, "No, I'll tell you. I'm transparent." And so my thing, I mean, I feel like the answer is going to continue to evolve, but the most recent was just that I need to focus on not placing blame or expectations on current people or new people in my life based on previous traumas and triggers. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so we go through whatever, and then we meet new people and we just immediately place it on them. Like, oh, this person's going to do this because blah, blah, blah did that. And it's like, this person has nothing to do with that person. So why would I do that? It's something I've always done. So I'm definitely working on that.
Man, that's dope, homie. Homie, that's dope. That's dope.
We're making new words. We're making new words.
Hey, I know. Oh, you know what? It was new. I was mixing homie and Tino. So it kind of connected into Honey. But
it could be part two of that Jessica Alba. Remember the Jessica Alba movie, Honey?
Oh my gosh! Please, why would you bring that up?
You said Honey. I thought Honey. We were talking on the show. The topic today was celebrities that you know your partner would leave you for, and Jessica Alba was one of the ones that came up for my producer. He was like, either Sweetie or Jessica Alba.
Sweetie, or that's kind of a that's kind of a like two different. But hey, there's a spectrum there. There's a spectrum there. That's all that matters. There's a spectrum there. He's open. He's open. There's definitely a spectrum there between Jessica Alba and Sweetie.
What about you for the question, if you don't mind answering? What do you think right now where you're at in life? Come on, man, we're working.
Hold on. What's the question again? I forgot it.
No, I know it's a lot. Just basically, what is it that you feel you could work on to just become a better version of yourself, like at the moment?
Yeah, mine is very similar to yours. My trust level right now is on a scale of 1 to 10 is at a negative 20.
I bet.
Um, and it's very low. So a lot of times right now, I find myself kind of doing the same thing you do. Well, before I even can blame new people or put it on new people, before I even do that, I'll I'll back out of the relationship
Right.
so that I don't get hurt.
You
Because I'm like,
self-sabotage.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Self-sabotage is like, one of those big things. And then I was telling my wife the other day, I live in this crazy dichotomy between wanting to have friends and not wanting to be with anybody.
Yeah.
It's like I want to have great community, but then I'm like, I don't really think I want to have community. But then the crazy thing is that through my work and what I do right now is I create community,
Yeah.
and I'm good at creating community. But then
It's
when I
funny.
create the community, I just kind of back out of the community and let them have the community.
There's so many similarities, bro. It's like I'm in here talking on the radio for a living, and I talk to so many people, and that's what it's about, is about talking. But when I leave, one of the reasons I love my girl so much is because when we go out, I can shut down and just be quiet, and she'll take over. And she's such a people person. She can lead the conversation. Excuse me. She can lead the conversation and entertain, and everyone loves for her to be the center of attention because she's got this energy. And for me, I love it because I don't want to talk to anybody, which is so weird, not in a negative way, but I
Yeah.
love to just sit back and just
Yep.
be in
Just
my
chill.
own zone, man.
Yep. Hey, it's the same way. Like on all of my retreats, the guys who come, I think they have this expectation that I want to be like this, the life of the party, or be the talker, or be anything. And I'm usually the guy, like when all the guys are sitting in the living room and they're having a deep conversation about marriage and divorce and adultery and everything else. I'm the guy who, like, quietly gets up, goes outside and sits by the fire and just sits out there by myself. And then, one by one they come out, they're like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm great. I'm good. I'm good." Y'all just go
Well,
back out there and just, have a good time.
but it makes sense though, because what you're doing is important. You're getting them to create this dialogue, and once the conversation's going, now they're in it, they're opening up, and now your job's done.
Yep.
Now you can step
I'm
away.
done.
Yeah, no, I get it.
That's how I think. And while that's my desire to do that, I also, like, I can't lie to myself. A lot of times I do that. It's I try to separate myself from people quick enough before you even get the opportunity to hurt me.
Yeah,
And that's right now where I'm trying to work on. In as much as I'm even trying to work on it right now with my therapist, which is so crazy. I've been through like 6 therapists. At this point, I I don't know. Like even
I
my
feel like it's,
therapist right now, I have trust issues right now with my therapist.
which is the one person you should be able to be
Who I should
vulnerable
be
with.
safe with. I do not feel safe. I do not feel safe with my therapist. This is like 100% honest to God. I do not feel safe with her at
Well,
all.
that's one of
And
the
then I'm like, well, I
biggest
need to go
things.
find another one. And
That's one
I
of the
just,
biggest things,
you know,
man, that people tell me that it's so hard to find a therapist that they can trust. And I
yeah,
feel like I lucked out on that, thank God. But it's one of the biggest complaints I hear from listeners or whatever it is. They'll reach out and say, "Man, I appreciate your journey, and I've tried, but I either got turned down by this therapist, or this one wouldn't take me, or I went and I just felt like they weren't listening to me, or whatever." There's so many people that just feel like they can't relate, which is, it sucks because it takes so much courage to build that up and finally go find a therapist. And then once you have a bad experience, it's like, why the hell would I do this? Why am I wasting my time and money on this when it doesn't even work, or I can't
facts,
connect?
bro.
And then
Facts.
you can start to go down this rabbit hole and be like, well, maybe it's not them, it's me. Maybe I can't connect to people.
Yep.
And it's all mind tricks, man. It's
Yeah.
scary
My
sometimes.
my my therapist, we had an issue where, like, I was showing a fit of humanity. I mean, honestly, I was on the phone with her, and I was cussing. I was mad, I was angry, I was cussing, and she didn't like it. She's like, she didn't like the fact that I was cursing and blah blah blah. And I'm just like, well, I apologize for cursing, but this is like the very human side of who I am.
Yeah.
And
Well, I feel
she
like you
she
shouldn't
took
have
it.
to apologize for emotion.
That's what I thought too. Like, you're the therapist, but anyway, I had to apologize and blah blah blah, and then she's like, well, I'm still hurt by it. I'm still hurt that you would even do that, and hurt, and like this is how she's explained this stuff to me. So then the one of the things she said was, she said, I didn't lie to you like your mother, and I didn't abandon you like your father.
Damn.
And that hurt because I'm like, you took something that basically happened like 7, 8 months ago. You took very sensitive information and then you threw it at me. And I'm like, and then her next words to me after I told her how hurt I was because she said it, she said, well, you have to forgive me. You have to forgive me. You have to release me from that. You got to forgive me and you got to move on. And I thought, well, I got to forgive you and I have to move on, but you couldn't forgive me when I apologized like 12 times for cursing. And I'm just like, if cursing is the worst thing that I do, like considering the fact of, how kind of person I've been, I'm like, Kurt, that should be the one thing you should be applauding me for. If that's the worst of my problems right now.
It
But yeah,
sucks
man,
because
I have trust issues with her now.
it sucks because I can see the reasoning as to why she would tell you what she said, because there's truth to it. She didn't do these things,
absolutely.
But the way there's always a way you handle it, and delivery is key. That's why I hate text messaging during arguments, because
it was over text message.
Oh,
she texted to me. She texted to me. That's all I was like.
She might have meant it in the sweetest way, but obviously, if you're in a zone and you read it, it's like, what,
bro? And the crazy thing is like even before that, I explained to her, which I didn't feel like I needed to explain to a therapist, but I explained to her that I don't like having texting conversations for sensitive information. Texting is for very basic information. If we're having a sensitive conversation, you're hurt, I'm telling you something that is very sensitive, we need to get on the phone. Let's Zoom for that, because I need to be able to see your face.
Yeah.
I need to be able to hear your voice. I need to hear the dialect. I need to hear your reasoning. I need to be able to hear it, and I can't hear it. I'm just reading on a text where everything you send me, and it comes out of the blue. I just wake up and it's 6:15 in the morning. I just have this long text message after, not speaking to her for a week. And I have a long text message out of the blue because I thought everything was fine. And in the middle of it, it's, I didn't lie to you like your mother. I didn't abandon you like your father. And I basically told her, I was like, maybe you didn't lie to me like my mother. And maybe you didn't abandon me like my father, but you definitely hurt me like every other person who I've been hurt by.
Mic drop.
Because you invoked a very sensitive situation where I have been working, with loving my mom and being compassionate towards her, knowing that, there's a reason why she didn't say anything. And I can only imagine the shame she's felt for 36 years. And I always want my mom to know I love her. And then for my father to know, like, I don't want him to feel shame because of it, because I know how that feels. So I've been working overtime in forgiveness and love and grace and mercy towards them. And for you to throw that back on me, it almost made me feel like, well, damn, should I have not? I had all these different questions, man. It was just bad. So now I'm like therapist-less, and I'm just kind of out here, bro.
That sucks, man. I'm sorry to hear that, bro. I hate that it was such a, such a emotional bad experience. Like that's not what it should be, especially from someone that you're trying to, trust and just be so vulnerable with. That sucks, man. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, bro. I really do. I really do.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think again, it's all about acknowledgement. I think you know what it is. And I mean, you've literally out loud, even during this conversation, like addressed the things and the issues. So you're aware. And it's just about, I mean, I think as long as you're aware, then you can still, with or without the therapist, work on the things you need to work on. Again, it's good to have that other person that can help kind of guide you, but being aware is a big part of it. And clearly you are. So that's a win.
Yeah. And honestly, the AA meetings, they help a lot.
Yeah.
Because we're always going through one of the 12 steps, and then to just be able to just hear them and talk to them, be able to share with them for 2 or 3 minutes, like, and then to be able to talk to them offline. A lot of the guys that just hit me up, text me and be like, hey man, what's going on? Let's have a conversation. And that has helped me a lot more in many cases with, that I've gained more from those conversations than I have gained with my therapist. My therapist knows how to diagnose and add words to my pain. They can say, oh, this is what this is, and I can go look that up. But with with my AA guys, it's just like, oh yeah, you're in the dumps today. And just like you said, like, you're having a bad day, you're not having a bad life. So let's talk about some good stuff that's going on, and we just go on from there. And it's great, man. So I'm having to use that right now as my form of therapy, since I don't have anybody I'm paying at the moment.
Right. No. I mean, at least you're not just not doing something. As long as you
absolutely.
just forward motion, man.
Yeah. Well, man, I've enjoyed my time talking to you, Tino. I appreciate your time. I know it's extremely valuable. And I appreciate I appreciate you even coming on. Appreciate you having a conversation with me, and also just being vulnerable. And let me just say, from this spot over here, man, I appreciate the work you're doing. I know it's not always easy to kind of put yourself out there all the time, but the fact that you live out there right now is very admirable because a lot of people don't. And
Yeah.
you definitely live in the 1%. And I'm honored to be able to have that conversation with you, homie.
No, right back at you, man. I mean, everything you're doing, obviously, it works, and you're helping change people's lives, man. So to even just share your time and your audience, it's an honor, man. I really appreciate it.
So let the people know, man. How can they get in contact with you? How can they find out about the podcast? How can they connect?
Yeah, 1,000%. Everything we do, I mean, Instagram is definitely the main source for it all. It's just easy. It's all accessible. It's at Tino Cochino Radio. If you click the link in the bio or the highlights, you'll see it. It literally says Mental Health Podcast. Click that. It'll open it up. You can stream it on all platforms. And again, the podcast is called Is Anyone Listening?